you have a power meeting Monday morning, and you have all your staff on deck, right? You might not want to listen to a really relaxing piece of music. You might want to listen to something fun and energetic, to tap in to what that meeting really needs.
Welcome back to the Dream Architect Life podcast. I have with me an extra special guest, somebody who has actually been working with myself and Mr. Sweet behind the scenes, creating something that is absolutely magical that we are so excited to bring to you. So with me today is Barry Goldstein. Barry's musical experience spans many styles and genres, from co-producing the Grammy award-winning track 69 Freedom Special with Les Paul for Best Rock Instrumental in 2005 to providing ambient music for Shirley MacLaine. In addition, he has composed and produced music for television, film, major record labels, and top 10 recording artists. Barry's music is being used in hospitals, hospices, cancer centers, and medical practices. In addition, Barry has worked with the father of biohacking, Dave Asprey, and reached the Billboard Top 10 New Age albums with New York Times best-selling authors, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Daniel Amen, Neil Donald Walsh, tongue twister there, and Anita Morjani. In addition, his innovative product development and musical branding have been featured in film, TV, and #1 PBS specials. As a speaker, Barry's presentations have been audience favorites from medical ground rounds to national medical conferences. Barry breaks through even the toughest of skeptics by providing research, humor, and experiential processes that demonstrate the healing and transformational aspects of music and how these musical prescriptions can be used in modern day medicine. His best-selling book, The Secret Language of the Heart, has become a go-to manual for utilizing music beyond art and entertainment. It provides over 50 groundbreaking studies that assist the reader in using music to improve their health and quality of life. It has been endorsed by medical pioneers like Dr. Norman Shealy, Dr. Stephen Sinatra, Dr. James Oshman, and Dr. Daniel Amen. So with a rap sheet like that, Barry, I am so excited to have you with us today.
Brittany, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk with you, and it's been so much fun and so creative in terms of collaborating with you and your team and creating what we have. So I'm excited.
Yeah. And, as our listeners tuning in today, you might be scratching your head going, okay, we know that Sweet Financial, Brian and Brittany have brought us people from the medical space, from the health space, people from personal development, but music is a new space. And we are more than excited. We're elated for what this could potentially add to our clients and our prospects' lives. So Barry, I would love for you to share a little bit more of the behind the scenes that we maybe didn't share in your bio. Talk about your journey, talk about some of the things you've done and what brought you to this point.
Yeah, well, without going back to like 2 years old and that time frame, right? Because we only have a little time to talk. I started out as a musician and singer songwriter, and that actually developed into producing music professionally and New York City. And if you know anything about New York and you know anything about me, I'm a type A, high energy. I work a lot. I love doing what I do. And eventually, being successful as a music producer and working with clients started to become a pressure. And I started to kind of like lose sight and kind of lose myself in the business as opposed to why I started doing it and my original goals and my original intentions. So I decided to use music in the opposite way that I was using it. So instead of composing 4-minute pop songs that took 100 hours to create, with like really, distinct timelines and delivery dates. What would happen if I did it the other way around and create hour-long pieces of music that basically are just kind of in flow state and not any preconceptions and kind of decomposing with the music as opposed to composing it analytically. And my goal was really, well, how do I come back to my heart? How do I kind of re-navigate myself back to my original dreams and create that reconnection with the spark of it? So I did some research, and what I found was that if I wanted to target my heart physically utilizing music, that our heart is at a relaxed state between 60 to 70 beats per minute. And so I set my metronome to 60 beats per minute, not knowing exactly what would occur, and just started taking these hour-long journeys and moving into flow state where the music was coming through me. And I didn't think anyone would listen, to this music because it really had no melody. It didn't have a catchy chorus, all the things that I had been used to doing. But I played it for friends of mine who, some of them were massage therapists and some were working in the medical field. And they said, do you mind if we use it to relax clients when we're massaging people? Do you mind if we use it in our waiting rooms at the medical offices? Do you mind if we use it with cancer patients, who are undergoing chemo? Do you mind if we use it for insomnia? And, it just started to kind of ripple out. And I started getting all these testimonials of how people were using music as medicine, really. So not just on an emotional level, but how it affects our physical body. So that led to me really wanting to know why that was occurring, what was going on in this music that was creating these great effects with people. And that led to me writing a book and doing a lot more research on this and really learning how we could navigate and steer our energy utilizing music as a tool to enhance mood, but also how do we get music to really guide us physically as well. And that's the thing that most people don't get, is like, wow, music can actually be used to change our physiology. And so in a short form answer to kind of what I've been doing over the last over 30 years now with music.
Barry, I think something I appreciate so much about you and your process and what you do and the passion behind it is that you've somehow managed to not only, completely embrace the creative gene, the creative element, and being able to produce something like this, but you understand the science behind it. And you have, just the amount of credibility behind the work that you've done is so amazing to me. So, Barry, I'd love to pivot because we've talked and given examples to the health space and the medical space and what you've done there and what you've created. But to go back to what you've actually done for us, I would love for you to talk a little bit about that, because to give framing around it for our audience, for our listeners, we have the dream architect. That's our process. Everything that we do is enveloped around that. We also have worksheets and tools and things that we have people go through, and we wanted to make it into an experience and to put people into that true flow state. So Barry, if you could talk a little bit about how you've served us and what you've done, I think that would be really interesting for the audience.
Yeah, and I think that most people will probably say, oh, wow, how did that become a match? A financial company and, a music producer and a music composer. But I'm seeing more and more that people are understanding on a corporate level how music can be used to create team building, how music can be used to guide through processes like this where, you want to take people from one state to another. And in your case with the Dream Architect process, you were already really specific and your company already had the process in place. So it was really about how can we magnify that process and create a marriage here that is really catered to taking your clients and people you work with to the next level in caring. Because it's so easy these days to, license a piece of stock music that's out there. So, why create something so customized And I think that's where both of us and both of our teams got excited about this, because when we talked about the Dream Architect process, what we realized was, well, it's a 5-step process. And we had very high goals for what we could achieve, not just from creating it, but creating it in about 5 minutes. Like, how can you give people a powerful process, and how can they benefit in 5 minutes? So I remember our first conversation, I said, kind of break it down into 5 major points that we can incorporate into this process that carried your really powerful verbiage. And that allowed me to say, how am I going to carve this out musically? So just to break it down for people who are listening, this 5-step process was all about, number 1 was possibility. The second one was moving through limited belief systems. The third was creating your ideal dream architect or your dream space for this. Tapping into your values, and then, as something climactical, the excitement of what is yet to come. So those 5 bullet points, when I saw them on paper, my goal was, okay, if I was creating a film, which is how I think of this, is each one of these would be a unique scene. Mm-hmm. And this is really where we get into that specialization. So breaking it down into 5 different musical scenes to create 5 different emotions that are going to take people there musically. And it really is like scoring a film, because when you're closing your eyes to do a process, it's all about creating the visuals of what that looks like and what does it feel like. So for me, the challenge was being able to listen to the music back and say, okay, does this capture those feelings in each one of those scenes, even without the words? So if I were to play this minute piece for you, would you know that that's about possibility? If I were to play this minute piece for you, would that feel like excitement about moving into the future? And so it can really get quite specialized. And again, music's a tool to navigate energy. And it's a tool, it's a map. So that's exactly what the music did in this case, was to create a map from taking people through those 5 points to make sure it really provided a tool that helped you even before you meet your clients. What if they could do this process and already tap into the feeling of what that would be like? Then some of your work is already done because you've already taken them through the process. So that's really the beauty of what I think we collaborated on, was letting people know that in 5 minutes they could create something very powerful that helps them in the next chapter of their lives, or in just creating a energetic map to where they want to go and keep them on track for that.
Yeah. And, Barry, as you're talking through and sharing how we went through these kind of 5 key points, or, 5 pivotal steps, or that momentum, I'll say from our perspective, I feel like it helped us as a team even get more clarity around how we want our clients to feel when they come out of the Dream Architect process. So we didn't expect that coming into it. We expected that we would make this really cool music piece that people could use, to work through some of the exercises, to, even have a meditation piece that they could use. We did not expect to really look at how we could serve our clients even better coming as a result of our interaction with you. So that was a really neat thing. And, as we have a big passion for serving clients at that really, really high exponential level.
Absolutely.
So Barry, there's a couple things here that I want to press on. One of which you made me think when you were first opening up and you're talking about your journey and you're talking about how you made the decision to go from kind of, one end of the music industry into another. So I would love to hear a comment from you for anybody that's listening, that's maybe at this point of transition in life where they are maybe not quite fulfilled with the things that they've been doing up to this point, or maybe they are as fulfilled as they can possibly get, and there's not much left in what they're doing now. what piece of advice would you give to somebody that's looking at a massive pivot or a big career change or just making some monumental decision on the path of their life?
I think it's really about combining, emotional intelligence and combining your thought process as well. So a lot of us tend to try to overthink our next steps, and also not what kind of weighing out what our hearts are telling us is really important. And that's, called emotional intelligence. And, this is becoming a science as well, where we're understanding that our heart has its own unique intelligence. And it's actually being studied. It's called neurocardiology. So that our heart has a unique process of its own that's geared on intuitive states and tapping into those states as well. So, when you have that gut feeling, wow, it doesn't feel right going into another job like this, but it all looks good on paper, and you decide to take that job, and 6 months later you're kicking yourself for not listening to yourself. Or the other way around, and you follow your heart and say, wow, I'm really glad that I didn't just follow my mind on that, on my brain, and it looked great on paper, but now that I know what this company's about, or I know this person, it doesn't feel right. So for me, that was a big part of my process as well. It wasn't actually something that this part of my career wasn't just something that I chose, but it also chose me. And I was at that fork in the road where I had just come off, one of the biggest highs of my career was working with Les Paul and winning a Grammy with him for Best Rock Instrumental. And all of a sudden, I have this other side where people are calling me and saying, oh, your music really helped me with my mom who has dementia. And your music puts me to sleep every night, right? So it's like this fork on the road. Which way do I go, right? Do I continue in this area and pivot on the Grammy into the music business? Or do I take, what I've learned and actually move this more into into the medical arena and music as medicine, and also for transformation. And when I really went in and tapped into what felt good to me and what felt exciting to me, was taking this into kind of uncharted territory and moving this into more how it can help and serve people on a different level. So I think it's really a combination of listening to your mind, doing your diligence. Absolutely. You want to find out and you want to write things down. But then, the Native Americans say the longest journey you'll ever take is from your mind to your heart. So once you have all your facts down and the things you need to know, allow yourself to take the journey down to your heart, like I did with that compositional process, and see what feels good for you. And then make your decision based on both of those together.
Your answer, it obviously it has my wheels spinning exponentially. So, I think one of the things that we often encounter with our clients, with the people that we work with, is that they're at those pivotal transition moments where they have to be a little bit or not a little bit, but a lot introspective into what's next for them. And I think just allowing yourself the space to be able to navigate that and know that you don't have to have an answer in this immediate moment. I've used this analogy before where, I liken, we use the word retirement, but we're trying to come up with a better word for that because a lot of our clients don't retire by the traditional sense. It's not like I've been to work for forever. Now I'm just not going to. Most of the time it's going from something to something else. But I liken that period of time to the high school graduate. Like, what you're coming off of, and everybody's like, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? And you're like, I don't know. I have to figure out how to go to the store and buy groceries without mom there. So I think there's so much, there's like a repetitive nature that happens in cycles as we kind of go through these major transitions. So Barry, you and I were talking offline a little bit about this, but I'd be curious to know, you as that high achiever, that person who's always going to be going to something else, regardless of what he's leaving behind. How do you get yourself into a creative flow, into a creative state? How do you organize your kind of life, your schedule that gives you the freedom to be able to breathe and think on occasion?
Yeah, so that's probably like, I'll address that as kind of like an A and a B question. because I think one, sometimes the flow state could be different than also, navigating your energy, utilizing music in your day, in terms of specific times and what music you can use for different things and all that. But for my flow state, in terms of my creative state, I'm composing a lot of times. I'm utilizing music in my flow state. But in addition to that, I'm utilizing it to prepare. So I, depending on what type of music I'm creating, I might listen to a piece of music that's going to calm me down first, and put me into that heart space where I feel connected and I feel like my emotions are going to be authentic within the music. So it's about creating an environment around me. So this is a fun, exciting environment for me, but it's also about creating the inner environment. And if I'm going to be creating a song about inner peace, I don't want to be coming off an argument, with someone in my life, right? Or something that has me thinking, or coming into it with anticipation or worry. So I think before you step into your creative or your flow state is really coming into alignment with, what your intention is for that session. So for me, it's what is this music about? What do I want it to incorporate? Where am I now? And where do I want to go? And then what's going to put me into that state so that I can be an open vessel for flow. Right? Flow think about flow. You don't want to have things blocked, in order for you to be in that creative state. So anything that you can get rid of before you move into creation, any things that are in your mind, any anxieties, your space around you, you want to make it conducive to your creative state. And you want to be in a state that's going to kind of welcome in that creation, whatever it is, because it's like a birthing process. If you think of it that way, you're in several stages. You're in an initial stage when you're moving into birth. If we're seeding that process, you're in a different stage for the present part of it where you're in creation, and then you're in a different part when it's done and you're bringing it into the world. Just like bringing a child into the world, that could be part of your creative process as well. So knowing your stages and targeting them, I think music's a great way to put you into that space. Or also the music of nature, taking a walk in nature and connecting to the sounds of nature. And when you think about all the different sounds and all the things that are in nature, there's so much creativity and creation in all that's around you. So you tap into that, and that's a great way also to come into a creative space. So what we were talking about when we were kind of offline at first was we were talking about like navigating our schedules, and music is just an amazing way to do that as well. So for all of your listeners out there who are high energy entrepreneurs, or if you're moving into that next stage of your life as well, and you're looking to kind of be able to have more energy, and have specific times of your day that you're doing specific things, think of it as a program. Just like when you go on a diet, you have to have a program. It has to be for a certain period of time for it to be effective. It's the same with music. We've all had random experiences where music has affected us powerfully. But where the power comes in is to using it every day. So I'll give you 3 great ways to create your own program. And that's number 1, think of music like you would think of meals. In the morning during breakfast, in the lunch time to kind of re-nourish yourself, and at nighttime to wind down. So just like you nourish yourself with meals, you can nourish yourself with music. And so asking yourself that question, where am I now? Where do I want to go? And what piece of music is going to take me there at those 3 stages? Start your day with a piece of music that's going to take you from point A to point B. And for you, like Brittany, if you have a power meeting Monday morning, and you have all your staff on deck, right? Might not want to listen to a really relaxing piece of music. You might want to listen to something fun and energetic, to tap in to what that meeting really needs. So you're looking at every stage of those 3 times during your lunch. What's going to re-nourish you? Have you been behind a computer screen all day and maybe you want to get up and move? Or like for me, I'm in this environment a lot. So I take what I call a 5-minute musical vacation, and I listen to a piece of music from another part of the world. I close my eyes, like I'll listen to a piece of music from Morocco, and just picture myself there. And what are the foods? What does it smell like? How are the people? So I'm shifting my environment, and then I open my eyes and I feel refreshed and, back into creative flow. And then in the evening, most of us don't wind down. So this is really important because most of us are going like from our social media networks, and we're watching YouTube videos, or we're binge watching Netflix. Yes, I admit I've done it, right? But we also need to respect that our sleep state is a sacred process. And in order to move into those next chapters of our lives and the things that we want to do and the dreaming big aspect, we have to be rested. We have to rejuvenate. So if you can scale down at the end of your evening and start to listen to some more quiet music. So this is where, again, it gets into the physiological effects of music. What I had talked about at the beginning, where I was targeting my heart at a relaxed state, a lot of the studies show that music at about 60 to 70 beats per minute allow our hearts to entrain. So entraining is actually when our physical heart synchronizes to the tempo of music. So our internal rhythm synchronizes to an external rhythm, which is in the music. So it allows us to kind of wind down and move out of those high, busy beta brainwave states that our thinking minds need. And it's scaling down to going into our slower brainwave states, which are alpha, which is where our creative states are in alpha and theta. So when you're winding down, it's also great to be quiet with that, because then you have new ideas that come in when your brain waves are slowing down, and you're not like shocking your body to move from beta to delta, which is our sleep state. So those are 3 ways that you can really use music in your schedule, as entrepreneurs, as busy people, to make sure that you have enough energy, during your day and your next day to tap into what your passions are and what your dreams are. Because if you're spending it every place else and there's nothing left for that dream visioning, then, you're going to feel resentment towards things. You're not feel complete. So music's just a wonderful tool, a power tool to help you map out your day.
Barry, all I can think about here is how I think I need you to create like a whole bunch of playlists for me for every aspect of my life. And, it's so interesting listening to you talk about this. And music has always been something that has been, call it a passion, call it something that I just thoroughly enjoy. And I like all different genres. I like everything. And I can literally think in my brain, like I have personally a playlist for when I'm creating or writing in particular. So whether I'm, working on the latest book or blog posts or articles or white papers or, whatever, I have a certain playlist for that. And it matches the mood that I need, a little bit of energy, but softness at the same time. Same thing, with my kids, I have different playlists that I'll play based on, hey, they're, my youngest is acting out a little bit, so we're going to have a jam session in the kitchen for a little bit and burn that energy. So I just think so many people can relate if they start really thinking about how music has played a part in their life and how they can be even more intentional with it. So your commentary about the wind down at night and even the, prep before a meeting, or, you're getting ready for your day and all those things. I think that's something that everybody can do more intentionally. So Barry, I want to take this because, you've mentioned health. We talk a lot about health here at Sweet Financial because health and wealth are tied together so closely. If you don't have your health, that wealth doesn't really matter so much. So I would be curious, a lot of our clients talk about, being excited about time for new workout routines, or, things that they can do to really move their body. So do you have any commentary on that for, different elements of music that pair well with like yoga versus cardio versus, weightlifting, and how that might enhance their experience there?
Yeah, and there was actually, I think, there was a study that Pandora did that showed that, I think it was 80% of people judged their yoga workout based on the music that was played during
Wow.
the yoga session. So it does become really important. And like a lot of yoga teachers now are kind of playing double roles almost as DJs. So
Mm,
they're creating their own playlists, based on things like that, like beats per minute. So, as I said, if you want to be in that relaxed state between 60 to 70 beats per minute, for most people, if you want to kind of be in between that and a workout, like a yoga stretching and moving into the different parts of yoga workouts, a lot of time, those are in between 80 to 100 beats per minute.
mm,
And then, as you get faster, you're moving more into cardio, like when you're on a bike and you want to actually, you want to increase your heart rate. A lot of people like listening to club music or motivational type music to do that. And that's, usually from 100 beats all the way to 140 beats per minute. So these are terms that like DJs use, for beats per minute for moving a crowd and
mm.
targeting specific states to move people to different emotional states. But you can look them up. Now we have Google and now we have YouTube. Like if you type in inspirational songs at, 100 beats per minute, or great electronic music to listen to work out. And the idea is really, the studies show that the music that you prefer when you're working out are going to help you really get to those states a lot more effectively. So, someone could recommend, that's why I'm kind of giving you basics and tempos more than I am necessarily songs, because songs are so personal to us in nature. I could recommend Let's Get Physical, right? Or I could recommend Eye of the Tiger, which was a Rocky song for working out, because those were songs I loved to work out to when I was growing up, right? But for people who are younger, they're not probably going to even know what those songs are per se. So it's finding those tempos that are going to kind of take you to those states, and then finding songs, listening to them, and really see what moves you. What moves you. Like, what songs that you said you wanted to play for your kids. So playlists aren't like really new per se. It's more the technology is new. But Brittany, we used to do this. I grew up in New York, and in the Bronx, when I was growing up, we had boom boxes,
Yep.
and I grew up with a diverse group of guys, that were literally every ethnic, person you can categorize in different categories. We had it, so we would get a multitude of melting pot of each guy coming with a half an hour mixed tape of music they loved, right? And they would tell you why they loved it as well. I love this piece because it helps me, when I'm having problems at home, and a lot of things that were going on, in our lives were heavy things that were going on. Like I had friends whose brothers and sisters were like gang members, and other people coming from alcoholic households, and very heavy things. But the music that we loved, right, would enable us. It was like this rope that would kind of a lifeline that would pull us out in that half an hour, and move us to different places. And then listening to the next guys, so at the end of 3 hours, talk about mood shift, because, now you had this whole diverse ethnic melting pot of music as well, and you're learning more. Also, I think we need to come back to the music that moves and music we love. So go back to your, think about what you like to listen to in high school. What did you love to listen to? What did you like to listen to in college? And dust off those songs. It's like a long lost friend, really, that you haven't talked to in a while. But when you do, it's like you never stop talking to them. That's how I think of music. So when we look at it in a different way, and we look at it beyond art and entertainment, and we look at it as what I call acousticeuticals. So instead of like nutraceuticals or pharmaceuticals, like what would happen if you reach for a piece of music when you have anxiety? Or you reach for a piece of music when you can't get to sleep at night. It's low cost, it's non-invasive. I mean, what do you have to lose by trying it? So
that's so beautiful. And I think too, thinking about your comment you just made on the anxiety component, using music to help, bring those nerves down. I mean, that's something that I think with everything that's gone on in the world in the last few years, I don't think we have to talk about the elephant in the room, but I think that's something that you said, it's low cost. It's, easily accessible. It's, everybody has access to music. As a side note, all I can picture now is you working out to Eye of the Tiger.
yeah, well,
rocking
I'll
it.
take anything I can get. When someone says, I can picture you working out, that's a step in the right direction.
So I'll do the picturing so you don't have to do the work, right?
That's
Oh
right.
my
That's
goodness.
right.
That
No,
is
but actually, when I listen, I still listen to like those songs because they still motivate me. I still have a positive connection with them. And, that's what the research shows, is that we have what are called autobiographical memories. So when we listen to a piece of music, it immediately can take us back to that memory where we were. And that's why it's being used so beneficially now with Alzheimer's patients. Because if you can create a playlist of that music that person loved before the Alzheimer's, it's creating new neural pathways and neuroplasticity as well to have access to memories in a different way. So, and my book talks a lot about these things because most people, it's not going to be the first thing they reach for, but if you look at some of the videos like on YouTube, type in Henry and Alzheimer's, and you'll see how this one elderly man was literally taken from almost a catatonic stage in Alzheimer's to being fully receptive and in conversation. And then you realize, wow, this is and can be powerful if we take on the role of, being the person creating the programs for ourselves. And we do it, for so many other things.
Yeah.
So why not music?
That's so beautiful. And I can think of a few people that I know in my life, that I know in Brian's life, and I'm sure our listeners, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of us know people who suffer with either dementia, Alzheimer's, something like that. So that tiny little nugget right there is something that I know could help a lot of people. And Barry, I'll just comment on this too, as you're talking about the boombox and the music and the conversations and the vibes. I mean, I think back to being in my mom's backyard with my boombox and my mixtape and making up dances with my friends based on, whatever it is that we're listening to. And it's amazing how things like that can bring you back, and moments bring you, or music brings you back to certain moments and memories. So that's so fun.
Yeah,
Very,
and when you're up and you're doing that dancing, Brittany, too, this is how we basically activate our internal pharmacy. We have this pharmacy that's going on in our body that is beneficial to us. So when you're dancing and you're up, studies have shown that, music can help you produce dopamine, which is our reward neurotransmitter. So, there's are many different ways to access different hormones that are beneficial to sleep states and to waking states, melatonin and serotonin, all through the use of music. We have this amazing pharmacy that is like waiting for us to tap into it. And I think that's one of the things that I really learned from working with you as well, is that it can happen in 5 minutes. When we put our awareness and we put our care in, and we really focus in on what we're looking to achieve, it doesn't have to be an hour-long or an hour and a half long meditation. And I think that deters people a lot, of going through processes because they think they have a preconception of how much time it's going to take and how long they can quiet their mind for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily true. When you have the right intentions, you have the right emotions, when you're using the science behind it as well in the music, which we did, you can target and get people to these states and have profound effects and have a profound visioning. And literally, as your process says, it's architect. You're building it, right, from the ground up and providing the tools and the verbiage for people to build, their process in 5 minutes. And then so you can delve in deeper with them as they work with you and your team.
Mm-hmm. Barry, I have two more questions that I'm going to ask you. And I could honestly talk to you about this for hours on end because I think it's fascinating. And I think that people need to pay more attention because music is not just music. I mean, there's so much behind it and so many benefits to, really diving in and using it to your advantage. So we are going to make that piece available. So at the time of recording, we are in the process of a really cool website revamp, and we are going to make this piece available so that, as you're listening to this, you go to sweetfinancial.com, you're going to be able to get access to it. And we're so excited to put this out into the world. So Barry, before I ask my last couple of questions, if people want to learn more about you, they want to get a hold of you, maybe even go through the same process we did in creating a music piece that's either custom to their business or to their personal lives, how would they go about getting a hold of you?
Well, the best way to do that is through my website at barrygoldsteinmusic.com. And you can also reach me at info@barrygoldsteinmusic.com in terms of emailing me if you have a specific project that you're looking to collaborate on.
Awesome. Well, I can speak firsthand that you made the experience seamless and easy and fun and creative. And it helped, Brian and I both tap into thoughts and ideas that we hadn't even brought to the table yet. So I highly encourage anybody listening who has an interest to get a hold of Barry because what he does is magical. So Barry, two last questions.
Sure.
We like to ask our listeners, because we focus so much on helping people realize possibility and to dream big. I'd love to know, what does dreaming big mean to you?
Well, dreaming big to me usually focuses on the feeling of freedom. So when I start out visioning or I start out dreaming in terms of the future, I usually tap into the feeling of freedom first. Because if I'm feeling free, then usually that's associated with abundance as well. So what is it that makes me feel free, whatever it is, and tapping into that feeling first. And tapping into the feeling of what the future would feel like in terms of what I'm visioning. So if I'm, dreaming about playing in front of a crowd of 70,000 people, it's not just a matter of putting that on paper. It's like, what would it feel like to be in front of that audience and seeing them move to these emotional states? By listening to the music, what would the sound sound like? So really tapping into the emotion of the future before it happens. And then you set a resonance with that as well in terms of, if you know what it already feels like, then it's so much easier to navigate towards that because you're just now navigating to the feeling of it as well as the event. So that's how I like to dream. And it's similar to really moving into that flow state that I'm using in my creative process, because moving into that dream state of dreaming big really is about tapping into the energy of creation. You're creating it, right? And so if you can stay in that fun, creative, childlike energy of creation and how much fun it would be and what it would feel like when you achieve it, then I think that's a great start.
Mm-hmm. I love that answer. And, I was having a conversation with Brian recently about how I felt such like a call it dream, call it vision, whatever, creation block. And I've sat down and I've tried to, think about, okay, it's time for me to set my next 3-year intention. And for some reason, I've just been stalemated. And, what you just talked about, putting yourself into the feeling versus just putting the words onto paper, that for me hit home right now. So I'm going to do that. And I think that's such great advice to any of our listeners. And again, it's whether you resonate with the term dream or you resonate more with vision. It's just about creating intentionality for your future and going after the things that you want most. So I love that answer. That was so good.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, if when you have those creative blocks, something that works really well for me, if you think of yourself like you're like a TV channel, right?
Yeah.
And so you're on this creative station now and you're having a block, right? It's like a TV show you don't want to watch. Man, I don't want to watch me in a creative block. I'm going to turn the channel to something else. So create something else completely. Like even if you're drawing or doodling on a matchbook or on paper, just open up the creative energy to something else. And once you move into a flow state with something else, or maybe it's creating a business plan or creating the next chapter in your book, you'll find that when you come back to that original channel where you were blocked, now you're not putting that pressure was taken off and you can move back into flow state.
I will try that. That is great advice. And I've never had that suggested to me before. So I will absolutely put that in place.
Awesome.
So Barry, my last question is, what haven't I asked you that I should have?
Well, you know what? I will say, just moving forward for me and moving into the chapter of my life, as well, the next chapter that I'm definitely, this is kind of something that has opened up a new pathway for me as well. Like, being able to collaborate with people who understand the power of music to magnify mission. So I'm excited about taking like this into more corporations. I'm creating a lot more programs, a lot more courses that will help in these areas, and including things like musical mission statements and musical branding and sonic lead generators. These are all things where we're used to utilizing specific tools that have been present in our field before around marketing and around different things, but utilizing music in a new and powerful way to build audience and also to not just build them, but provide benefit to, your audience and to really create community with the things that you're offering people as well. So I'm really excited about that next chapter of what that's going to look like, and to bringing this more into mainstream businesses and mainstream entertainment, as opposed to just the transformational or medical areas. It's like, okay, great. How can we get these tools in so people can actually help their businesses, as well as that next stage in their life? And that's kind of where me and my wife are going into a new chapter in our life as well, and we're getting prepared for our dream architect process as well, and what that looks like. So I agree with you in what you said, that a lot of us don't retire, and we have to find a better word for it than retirement, because it seems so final. Like when you're in retirement, I've been using like the next chapter, but I think you're right. I think that's our next project, is like, let's come up with a really cool name for retirement.
I like it. Hey, collaboration at its finest. We are game for that.
That's
awesome.
it.
Well, Barry, I am so excited to see what you create. And I think what you're talking about here with the musical mission and, just really having that become part of organizations and how that can impact people and individuals too down the road. I think that's going to be amazing to see. So Barry, I'm so grateful that you agreed to come have a conversation with me today, to hang out and to share your brilliance with our audience.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. It's something that I'm passionate about, and I'm excited to see how your community benefits from the process that we did together. So I would love to hear more about people's experience once you are making it available to them, which is really soon. So
Yeah. Awesome. We will absolutely share. Well, that wraps up today's episode of the Dream Architect Life podcast. Be sure that if you like what you heard today, if you want to hear even more from brilliant minds like Barry, be sure to subscribe to our channel, to give it a like, and to share it. And if you are watching this on our YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe to that as well. You'll be the first to know when any new content drops. And of course, share that as well so that we can reach even more people and help people build a life beyond wealth. So we will catch you back here for our next episode.